Wasn't quite sure. I don't think she was quite sure what questions she had to ask, because she didn't, you know, as you know, when you start selling condos, sometimes you don't know the questions you have until you're in the middle of something.
Right.
Yes, exactly. So I just joined the meeting to see maybe somebody can share some experience or something.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Have you sold any condos, Andrew?
No, none.
No.
None this. I was going to say none this week, but I think I did. So.
None today.
Not today. Yeah.
How many condos have you sold so far this year?
Oh, I'd have to look at my numbers. Probably, I would say close to 10, I would say, this year.
Wow.
Right.
So would you say you're about equal with resale homes, or I know you sell?
No, I'd be more condos. I'm just looking at my numbers now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 10.
10. There you go.
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, no, I would say I'm definitely more condo. I prefer condos, that's for sure.
Do you? Why do you prefer them?
Because there's no well and septic.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing. That's true.
It's a good point.
There's less to go wrong in condos for sure. Like inspections don't usually bring up anything. The only thing is the condo documents, and where I've been doing it for so long, I know the buildings that are good and are running good condo corporation, and the ones who are not.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, I can share a little story with you. Last week, I wrote a deal on a condo on Falkland Street condos. I don't know if it's 5505 Falkland Street, and many units have come and sold, bought and sold over the years, and I've never ever sold one there. I've showed them. So I showed it last week. People liked it. We wrote an offer on it. We get the condo documents back, and that's a self-managed building. Now, it's 55 units, and it's self-managed. So what the developer did, when he built the building, he kept the majority of the units for himself. So at 55, he had 27, 28 units that he rents out. So when we looked at the condo documents, when we reviewed the condo documents, there was no structure to the documents, because normally when you have a property management company running condo corporations, they have templates for everything, right? So they have their meeting minutes, they have their AGM minutes, they have their budget, their audited financials. These guys didn't even have audited financials. They just sent over spreadsheets. 2018. So what's happening is no one can get anything done because the owner or the developer owns the majority of units. So, you know, nobody can get anything done. I think it's against the law what he's doing, but he doesn't even know. Like they're supposed to have an AGM every year. They didn't have one last year. Well, I think the last meeting minutes was 2019, April of 2019 last year. So over a year ago was the last meeting they had. Wow. And the meeting minutes were just people bickering back and forth. Just like, why is this not being done? Why is this not being done? Why was there someone shot in front of our building? Like, it scared my clients off, and we terminated the deal just based on condo documents.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I didn't know that about that building, because I've showed a couple in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a
scary.
nice building, but the condo fees are so low in that building, and that's why the developers thinks it's better to keep the condo fees low, which yes, I get, but condo fees should go up a little bit every year. Just based on inflation, based on the rate of water, based on Nova Scotia power rates, they all go up every year. So condo fees, instead of having a big increase 5-10 years time, just incrementally, little 2%, 1%, 2% increases over time will help the condo corporation sustain a good reserve fund and a good operating fund, right? So, yeah.
Wow.
That's scary for all those people that have their lives invested in that unsecured building.
Well, I mean, Rosie Porter, who's an agent with Royal LePage, she had the unit in there, and I actually called her up, and she said, Andrew, I just put my hands up. She was like, I just said, you know what, I'm getting my rent. The building's not bad. The good thing about it is the developer's doing all the work that needs to be done, but it's not going through the right channels. He's just piecemealing it off and just doing it here and there, and not he's not looking at the reserve fund saying, oh, okay, falls under reserve fund, we should take the money from there. He's just doing it himself. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
it's a tough one, right? Like it's a
But it
good
wouldn't
building, it's a
probably-
good location, it's a solid
Yeah.
building, but you just don't know what's going to happen down the road.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be one you would run to with your clients, especially
No.
if you're not solid. If they don't have any experience with condos,
Yeah.
then it
Yeah, I
wouldn't
mean,
be-
some people are going to be all right with it. You know, like obviously some people are, but you know, and this is what I'll tell you guys again, don't assume your lawyer is going to read the condo documents for your client. Just don't assume it, because they don't. I'm pretty convinced that they don't.
Yeah.
And
Which is pretty scary when you think about it, because we rely on them to
yeah,
navigate through a lot of that legalese stuff that sometimes we just don't understand.
but I think they rely on us to read those, because
Yeah.
we're making the bigger paycheck. So
Yeah.
at the end of
So
the
who
day,
is the sorry? So who is the best lawyer for condo as you
Ah.
like?
yeah. So Pat Cassidy would be the best one. He's like the condo lawyer king. So he's with who's he with now? He moved to Boyne Clark, I think.
No, it's not Boyne Clark, and it's not Patterson. It's one of the other big ones. It's not Boyne. It's the one down on Purdy's. Not Stuart. Maybe Stuart McKelvey.
But that being said, Andrew, Pat is usually representing the condos more so the corporations. Like,
Yeah. But
then
he'll still take
Yeah, you've got Cox and Palmer now.
Cox and Palmer.
Cox and Palmer, yeah,
Pat,
Devin.
His rates are so much higher than any other lawyer, but it's hard to recommend them. Like charge way more than.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
But
all-
doesn't Stephen Ling do a lot?
Yeah, well, that's who I use, right? But I don't know if he reads the condo documents. I really don't, because I read them all the time. So I don't count on a lawyer reading them and presenting them to the
So
client.
do you ever, when you read through a condo document, do you ever then go to the lawyer and say, what about this? Like,
No, I usually know enough about it that I'll talk to the client first.
okay.
Like I send it to the clients. I say, read this, please read that. And some of them don't have any idea what they're looking for or what they're reading. And then I'll go over with them and I'll point out things in it that they should know, right? Like here's your reserve fund. This is where your reserve fund should be. And this is where it is, right? So, you know, you got to take that into account. Are my condo fees going to go up in a couple of years? Are they not? You know,
So when you look at a reserve fund, Andrew, where should it be? Is it based on the number of units in the building? Is it?
so
How
what
do
a
you
reserve
determine-
fund is, there's a study that's done. It's a
Yep.
brand new study is done every 5 years, and every 10 years, and an updated study is done every 5 years. Do an update. So when they do the reserve fund, they're usually looking 30 years out. They're saying, okay,
Right.
this is where the building is going to be in 30 years. This is what's going to need to be done. So we're going to need a new roof in 30 years. This is what it's costs based on inflation. And then also same thing with windows, doors, basically any component of the building that's going to need to be replaced. So
Mhm.
then they take, you know, and they budget all that and they take account, okay, so we're going to need this, we're going to need this. This is, and then it's all kind of brought back to, this is how much you need each month to be going in the reserve fund to cover that 25, 30 years down the road. So then that's how your condo fees are, how they come up with your condo fee, right? So that's why it's updated every 5 years, because something could have happened to the building.
Right.
Something could have happened, a boiler could have broke, you know, some windows could be faulty. So then they need to update it to compensate for that. So that's kind of how that works. But it's very
Hurricane,
detailed.
hurricanes from the south. All of a sudden, building materials went through the roof.
That's right, right? So, you know, yeah, that's what you
Yeah.
got to look at. So the reserve fund's it's not the easiest document to read in the world, that's for sure, because it's very long, it's very detailed.
Yeah.
There should be schedules at the end of the reserve fund that should, and usually what the reserve, they give you like 5 examples of, okay, if you did it this way, if you did it this way, if you did it this way, if you did it this way. But pretty much the majority of them are going to say, okay, in 2023, you should have X, say 200,000 in your reserve fund. right? So right now, when they're updating the study in 2015, say you only had 50,000. Well, they're going to base the condo fees on having, when they get to 2023, getting to that 200,000, right? So they need to replenish, because the reserve fund should be in line pretty close to what you're getting. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been running into this question a lot with particularly one condo buyer I'm running around with right now.
Yeah.
And that is the difference, and they're usually small, difference in fees per floor. Like unit 511 might be 550, but unit 614 is 620.
No, it's all based on square footage.
Okay.
Condo fees are based on square footage. The only building I know that doesn't do that is Embassy Towers.
Okay.
They
So that's what I told her. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's square footages and stuff like that. But we just kind of found, like, we were in 60 Walter Havel. And I think every single unit we looked at had a different number for fees, even though some of them were within 10 square feet of each other. And that's only according to the agent's measurements.
Right. So, well, yeah. So what happens if just checking how long the unit's been on the market, because some agents are not updating their condo fee.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but yeah, that's pretty much what happens there. And then sometimes the owners don't realize that their condo fee have gone up.
Yeah.
And like they go and look in their bank account. Like I had one the other day, the deal was done, and then he comes back and he says, "Oh, my condo fee is $540 and we had $525. He's like, I totally forgot it went up January 1st. And we already had the deal done. So we had to go and amend the deal to say condo fee in the counteroffer, but buyer acknowledges that condo fee is $540, right? So sometimes agents are not updating. Sometimes the client doesn't give the right information, right? They think they know what's coming out of their bank account, but they don't. So it's up to you to kind of verify that, right? Like when you're writing an offer.
Yeah.
Andrew, I have a question with regards to how do you tell your clients with regards to that? Because I usually leave that in the lawyer's hands of, whether it's the property management is going to get in contact with them come closing, for the auto deposits, for monthly condo fees, the superintendent, etc. of the building.
A lot of it comes out in the estoppel certificate, Susan. Like an estoppel certificate is going to give you the exact condo fee that comes from the property management company. They're going to tell you who's on the condo board, if there's any special assessments. That's the things that come out on the estoppel.
So again, typically I rely on the lawyer to give my client that information as far as who they're going to give, because the one I dealt with earlier this year, they didn't even want a void check. They wanted post-dated physical checks versus having, most people would do a void check for the withdrawal.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a gray area there between when the lawyer transfers everything over, the estoppel goes, and then it's up to the buyer to kind of reach out to the property management company. I had an instance last week where I got a message from the property management company at Lower Water Street. Hey, Andrew, your client who sold unit 609 9 months ago was still paying the condo fee. Didn't even realize it was coming out of his bank account. That's someone who's got some money. Yeah.
I was going to say, how does that happen for 9 months? 1 or 2 months if you're busy, maybe. But
nice problem.
He's not working on his P&L and going through his monthly bank statements.
But the other thing was the guy who moved in didn't reach out to the property management company, didn't try to, hey, I'm not paying any condo fee. What's going on here? Right? So anyway, it's nothing I can do about it. I mean, that's that gray area where you're kind of relying on the client to set it up. Like I always try to say, so here's the property management company, reach out to them, see how they want their condo fees coming out. After that, I can't control it, right? Like I can't control if they do that or not. I can only give them the information that they need.
So sorry, how to check the updated condo fee with the listing agent, or you can check some documents?
No, No, it's pretty much it's the owner who's going to have to, it's the owner that's signing the contract saying, this is what I pay for a condo fee. So if they give the wrong number and it comes out down the road, I mean, that's, they're lying. It's against the law. They can't do it, right? It's their problem. But it's up to the owner to confirm what the condo fee is. I mean, you can't really call up the property management company because it's the confidentiality thing, I would think, and say, hey, what's the condo fee on this unit? There's no like database or anything like that that'll tell you that this is the condo fee for X building.
So
So
don't.
I have seen though that we've gotten the sheet provided by the seller that shows which unit and how much they're paying, and that usually comes with I don't know if it's the AGM minutes or.
Well, no, that's probably what the declaration. Like in the declaration, there's a Schedule C that breaks down percentage. Like go back what Alex was saying. There's a percentage of each unit, so it's just going to go on based on your square footage. This is the percentage you pay. And that's usually what the declaration will tell you. So I don't really remember seeing that. Like they're not going to have that. They might. I don't know. Some property managements might have that, but usually it's at the end of the declaration that you see. Here's the unit number. Here's their proportion of what they pay to the condo fee, and then you can kind of look at the square footage and then bring it back.
Yeah.
But that would have to be updated, like, because the declaration sometimes is from 12 years ago or whenever the condo was first established.
But the percentage doesn't change.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? The percentage of that person's condo fee still stays the same. The condo fees may go up, right?
Yeah.
They should go up, but the percentage stays the same.
And that percentage stays the same whether, like, when a special assessment comes into effect too, correct?
Absolutely. Everyone pays their proportion.
Because I remember
a 2,000 square foot unit is going to pay proportionally more than someone with 1,000 square foot unit.
Yeah.
Do they make exceptions to that though, Andrew? Don't they sometimes, depending on the size of the building, they say, we're going to divide it amongst the 22 owners and everybody pay the same amount, but that's based on, voting for that?
Yeah, no, I've been involved in one special assessment and it was based on my square footage of my unit. This was my proportion that I had to pay.
Yeah, because I remember when I did John Parr last fall,
Right.
the special assessment for the decks, we were on floor 4, and it was, I think the 4th floor has all the biggest units in the building.
Right.
Our assessment was significantly larger than floor 3, floor 2, floor 1.
Right. But that's also probably because of scaffolding.
Yeah.
Right. Stuff like that, because it's higher. It's, they got to move.
Yeah.
There's more manpower involved.
Yeah. More manpower. Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm just going based on, I think, a memory. I had a condo down on Victoria Road years ago, and, an older building, and there was only so many in that building. And I thought because it was a self-managed, they all divided it amongst the unit owners for the repairs.
And that's what you'll see in self-managed a lot, right? Like they don't necessarily go by the rules. They because they can make their own rules, right? Because they're self-managed. So I see there's a question here, experience with Inglewood. I've sold some units in there. I've never had any issues with that building. Seems like a pretty solid building. So I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Iris.
I'm not up on my Chinese.
Iris?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a pretty solid building. 5523 English. I think I've sold one a few years ago there. Seemed pretty good, but I mean, that was a few years ago. Things could change, right?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Just to ask for my friend.
Yeah, no problem.
And Andrew, where we have to wait so long for the estoppel certificate, when you're preparing to write an offer, do you ask for a financial statement up front, something up to date?
Well, that's right in the clause 4, I think, of your condo schedule, that it says like the most up-to-date minutes, financials, stuff like that. If I got a really long closing, like if someone wants like a 6-month closing, sometimes I'll ask for the estoppel up front. Say, I'd like an estoppel order now and another one again. Yeah. So with a long closing, you don't know, what's going on.
A lot could change.
Yeah, a lot can change.
Yeah.
But you would typically ask that the seller pay for that, would you?
Oh, that's written right in there. Seller pays for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's written right in there.
But would you put it, you would put a specific clause asking for one sooner so that it be at the seller's expense then?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can say the buyer can pay for it because it's not, it's up to the buyer and seller to kind of agree on it, who pays for it. I mean, they're not cheap. They have to be a cash cow for property management companies because it's just one page and then you fill it out and they charge you like $250 for it. It's kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I want to say
And
closer to 300. Yeah.
happy to see two of them in one deal.
yeah. Yeah.
Racking my head.
Racking my head.
Yeah.
What's the difference between like a resale condo and a new construction condo? Is any significant like difference people should be aware with?
Well, new construction condos are going to have their own contracts. So you're not going to be able to like write it up on an AP&S. They have their own contracts. So this is where you really need to get a lawyer involved because they are wordy. I would also say that new construction condos, you're going to pay 3 months condo fees up front when you buy it. So that's not something you normally pay with resale. Although some declarations and bylaws do have it in there, but it's usually paid up front on the new ones, not on the resale. So that'd be one of the biggest differences.
Oh, so if they have their own template, like contract template, right?
Yeah.
So would any builder like skip some, obligations in there?
No, the builder's contracts are ridiculously long and really small letters. I'm just making a dig at Janice because she knows what I'm talking about. But, yeah, you just got to watch out. Like, another one is occupancy fee. Like you have to look at the occupancy fee if it's not registered as a condo. So sometimes it takes a while for a condo to register as a condominium like corporation. So it's given an actual number, and that's when your mortgage starts. But before that, because condos rarely close on time. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember one in the last 10 years that closed when it said it was going to close on time. They're usually always late. So people are, scheduling their lives around this closing date, and then it gets extended out, it gets extended out. But if the developer has an occupancy permit for the unit, then a person can move into that unit and pay an occupancy fee. Sometimes it's 75% or 75 cents per square foot. Sometimes it's 65. Sometimes the developer gives a break on it because it can end up being pretty costly if you have to move in. But they changed the legislation in 2012. You don't have to move in anymore. A developer cannot force you to move in. Like I bought my condo in 2010. I was forced to move in because they had an occupancy permit. We didn't register till 6 months later. So I was paying occupancy fees for 6 months to the developer, which sucked.
So sometimes the occupancy fees are a little negotiable too with the developer.
Well, it's up to the developer, right? Like you guys did, you put a good price on it down at Goresbrook. That was, they didn't have to do that. It was written right in the contract that you paid, I think it was 75 cents per square foot, which would have been, just, for some of the bigger units, it would have been pretty huge rent. So,
But Andrew, your current condo, you paid occupancy fees for a few months, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Only because you were kind of had to move in because you had rented your other place.
Yeah, I tried to time it, and I took the advice of a sales rep, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good advice. I won't mention any names, but you probably guess. But it is what it is. I mean, you got to live somewhere. You got to pay rent somewhere, pay living costs somewhere. So.
Iris, I would just say to you that I always recommend to, like when I'm doing new construction for clients, I explain to them that it's a contract that's made by the developer. So it's always going to protect the developer first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Like everything is advantageous to the developer, whereas my buyer just has to buyer beware of that.
Yeah.
It's almost always made by one lawyer.
Yeah.
Pat Cassidy. Yeah.
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 Well,
right.
and like you said, Andrew, to make sure that you pull a lawyer in and have
Yeah.
them read that APS, right?
Yeah.
The developer's contract.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep my septics and wells.
You go right ahead, buddy. Go right ahead. We have my
You guys won't be fighting over business, will you?
yeah, not anytime soon.
So normally, if it's a new construction condo, normally when the unit can get occupancy permit, like is it depends on the total occupancy rates of the building?
No, it's just basically when it's finished to a point where a city inspector comes in and says this unit's livable, right? You can live in this unit. Doesn't matter that the hallways don't have carpet yet, but the unit's fine. So you can occupy the unit. Like, I think they had some people move in really early at Goresbrook, if I'm not
Yeah, they
mistaken.
did.
The building was like
They
still
did.
well under construction. So it's a decision that you make, right? Like it's not, or your buyer makes. It's not, you know, they can't force you to move in, which is great. So you can wait it out.
But it's then not knowing the predictability of when it's going to actually be registered. That is where the trick lies.
And that's something you can never predict it. I tried, didn't work out, but you can't predict that because the registrar in the government who does all that stuff, you know, it depends on how good the developer is with their documents and getting everything in. And then you're at the mercy of the registrar. I mean,
yeah.
And it depends on how many other condo buildings are trying to register that year as well.
Exactly.
Right. So if there's a lot of them, well, 3 or 4 of them all within the same year, then
right. I think there's
it's gonna
only
take
one
longer.
registrar. So.
What's that, sorry?
I think there's only one registrar in Nova Scotia that registers.
Wow.
I think I'm not sure.
Mm.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Anything else I can help you with?
I don't think my biggest one was like trying to just have that condo, the difference in condo fees. But like you said, it's all subject. Like,
yeah,
it all depends on square footage. Is the square footage right? Did the seller actually know? Like, is that the number that they started paying 4 years ago and now it's $50 more?
Yeah.
So my seller or my buyer that I'm working with right now is actually a lawyer. So every time we see a condo, she basically comes with a folder of every dock she can dig up on it. So she's always all over where the parking spots are, what's included, why is 604's fees bigger than 602's, and they're across the hall. Like, so.
But she should understand some of that too, though.
She's not, but I can't.
She's not real. She's probably not. She's not probably a real estate lawyer.
She's not a real estate lawyer.
It's a whole different expertise.
Yeah.
Andrew, I liked you always to tell my favorite thing that you ever taught me, which you should tell every time you do a session like this, is to tell a buyer that they should look into booking the elevator prior to moving in. That's my favorite secret tidbit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like some condo corporations, you can't move in on weekends, or you know, you can only move in 9 to 5 during the week. Like, they all have different rules. So that's something you want to always tell your buyer, to make sure they contact the property management company to book the elevator, know the exact time, because there's nothing worse for everybody involved when someone shows up at a building and nobody knows that there's a U-Haul truck outside and nobody knows that there's someone coming. None of the blankets are put in the elevator to protect the elevator. So yeah, you always want to make sure that you do that, mention that to them, make sure they do it, because no one likes surprises. And then, you know, when that's not done, that comes back on you. Like, that's kind of part of your job, where you go a little bit above and beyond for the client, because they don't know the difference. A lot of these people are moving into condos for first times. They don't know how it works. They don't understand how a condo works. So you definitely want to make sure you do that.
$1 million piece of advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
One thing that I just thought of, do you have any experience with like just like cosmetic interior renovations. Like for instance, I'm looking at a lot of these Walter Have or Regency Park condos, and all their kitchens are pretty beat up and old. Do they need to, like, if my buyer bought one and want to put the island in, yada yada, does she have to get special permission?
Yeah, you have to get approval for the condo board.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She has to go through the condo board because there's going to be tradespeople coming in and out of the building. So they need to know about it. There's going to be noise, you know, all that. But yeah, you have to get, and it's usually, as long as you're not moving walls around, it's usually, like if you're just renovating a condo like you would a house or anything like that, then it's no problem.
Yeah, okay. Painting and all that kind of easy stuff.
Painting, I don't think, but I mean, just to be safe, always do it. Just to be safe. Like always mention it to the condo board that this is what I'm doing. Here's plans here, and because they all want, you know, a reputable contractor who's doing the work. They want to know their names and all that stuff. Right?
Some of them have only people that they have work in the building. Isn't that right, Angela?
Some buildings will, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So does it have something to do with the insurance that they carry, or?
Yeah. Well, they'd want to know that contractor carries insurance. Right. It's hard, you know. I don't know if you can do it yourself. I don't know how that works, but.
Okay.
Thanks, Andrew. You're the condo guy extraordinaire. Always appreciate it.
No problem.
I always learn something. I always learn something every time I hear you talk about condos.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. If you guys ever have any questions or need any help or anything, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always willing to help.
Thank you.
Can I have one more thing? Sorry, for the home inspection in condo. Is it very easy to do the home inspection? No tricks there.
It's a great gig for the inspector. My inspector loves me because it takes him about an hour to do it, if that. But a thing you always need to tell your client about that, Iris, is that an inspector is only going to inspect the inside of the unit. It's not going to inspect anything with the building, nothing. You're not going to go around looking at cracks in the foundation or the brick. They're just going to be in the unit. They're going to look at your electrical, look at your plumbing, check your appliances, check the plugs, make sure everything is in order. But that's all they're going to do, right? They're going to check all the windows, but they're not going to do anything inside the unit itself. And they can't, right? Like they can't go around checking the buildings and stuff like that.
No.
So I guess the home inspection is not like always worthwhile for condo, because it's quite easy, right?
Well, I'll tell you two stories about that.
Okay.
First story was when I first got into business. I sold a condo on Rutledge Street, and my client, you know, I said to him, and this is when I was new in the business, I was like, you know, you can do an inspection, but, you know, it's up to you. You know a little bit about construction and that maybe you want to go through the place yourself. So we walked through the place, a little 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom condo. Didn't notice anything, checked the faucets, checked the taps, all that stuff. So then we close on it. 2 weeks later, I get a call, Andrew, the roof came in the bathroom. So what had happened, it was starting to bubble in the corner of the bathroom up top on the roof that we didn't notice. And then he kind of punched at it and the whole ceiling came down. What happened was the toilet upstairs was leaking. Upstairs from him was leaking. And just once it got touched, the whole thing came down. And, you know, if an inspector was there, he would have noticed that and we would have been able to, you know, kind of nip it in the bud. So that's one. And then the other one was the dishwasher. My client got in there, like we didn't do an inspection. My client gets in there, you know, Andrew, dishwasher's not working. Well, you know, you didn't do an inspection. What, you know, that's not my job to do. That's what you get an inspector for. So they were out, you know, they had to go buy a brand new dishwasher. So it's always good, you know, always offer it to the client. Well, we got those waivers now, so it's always offered to the client and let them make the decision. Don't say, oh, it's up to you. You don't really need to. I never say that. I always recommend it. I say you should get an inspection done. And And if they say no, I said, well, here's the waiver. You need to decline the inspection. And that's great that we have that waiver now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
typically
waiver
if
and
this goes back to them, then all of a sudden they realize, oh, maybe it is serious. Maybe it's something I should do.
Yeah.
If they have to sign something to say that they agree that they're declining it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Home inspectors should be more fair in their pricing. I mean, it's
Well, I was
ridiculous
just
to
going to
charge
say
the same
that, like,
price.
my home inspector charges 300 plus tax, which is still pretty high, but it's a lot less than a single family home. And I know some
Yeah.
inspectors that are just greedy. Like, they're like, no, that's my price for anything. Like, dude.
some would say that about us as realtors. So let's not argue professionals' fees.
True. Okay.
I can tell you the one
Some right,
story,
some no.
Andrew, one story about an easy condo inspection that I had to do for a lovely agent who was out of town. And then the next thing I know, we're terminating a deal and I'm out pounding the pavement looking for a new condo.
Right.
Hmm.
That doesn't bring back any memories to you?
All right, I missed something there. Something came up. I got my phone turned over now. Go again, Susan.
No, I just said I had to do an easy 1 hour condo inspection
Oh,
for
right.
a lovely agent who was out
Oh.
of the country. And then the next thing I know, we're terminating and I'm pounding the pavement trying to find a new condo,
Yeah, which one was that?
which worked out well.
Spikes.
Yeah,
Which
we
one?
had that, Chandler Halliburton had it down in that old building down. It was one of those little mini, like only so many units in that
Right.
building, and the windows were wonky and the floors were uneven.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember
So,
who bought her buying Spikes, which was
yeah.
definitely a good purchase because that's a good building.
But again, yeah, like for I always, even with people who don't want to do an inspection, like I know that Mike, you say it is kind of expensive compared to a house, but now I'm like, even like inspections have gone up to $500. If you're investing in a $250, $300, $400,000 plus home, it's a small investment to pay to find out if, you know, things like, there's always something going to go wrong, but if a toilet's going to fall through the ceiling, I'd rather have an inspector point that out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Plus,
Now that
if
would
you
end
try and
up
ask for anything
What's that?
afterwards in an amendment, you have to have something by a professional to be able to qualify
Not really.
what your ask is.
Yeah.
No, you can have it on a piece of napkin written by the father's uncles or the father's uncle's of the buyer's contractor.
When I've had that though, Susan,
technically.
I've gotten a lot of pushback from the agent on the selling side.
However, at the end of the day, a buyer can walk for any reason,
Yeah.
cold feet, and they could say it was an inspection issue based on a squeaky floor.
Yep.
That's true.
Thanks, Andrew. You're amazing.
All right, guys. Anything else? We're good?
Good.
Okay. All right. Go out and sell
So
some
much,
beer.
Andrew. Have a great
week.
day, guys.
You
It's
guys.
beautiful out.
Yeah.
Enjoy the sun.
Bye.